Hello YouTube, this is a video response to Omid Yashar regarding his video The Dangers of Ex-Gay Therapy and Journey into Manhood and Jonah specifically.
That homosexuality may not be a mental disorder for those who embrace it is no reason to ignore and disrespect the will of those individuals who of their own free will desire to develop heterosexual feelings of attractions.
Homosexuality is not a mental disorder regardless of one's choice to act upon those feelings or not. And I think part of the point here is that regardless of one's personal desire or determination, changing one's sexual orientation may not be possible. You know, it's not simply a switch which you can turn on or off, or something which can be eliminated through personal discipline.
Many people report that they feel depressed, suicidal, anxious, and hopeless. Those are not uncommon responses. Many people? Who are these many people?
You don't want to go there. Just for a few examples, I'm going to link to a short interview with Mel White, who mentions after 30 plus years of attempting to change his sexual orientation, including undergoing exorcisms and electric shock therapy, he attempted to commit suicide. I'm also going to link to a video uploaded by Truth Wins Out, where a mother recollects stories from other mothers whose gay sons committed suicide after not being able to make themselves straight. I'm also going to link to personal recollections from Vincent Cervantes and Peterson Toscano, both of whom underwent gay exorcisms to try to get rid of what they perceived to be a demon which was causing them to be gay, and becoming suicidal as a result of these unsuccessful exorcisms. So please don't try to suggest that there aren't negative emotional repercussions involved with attempting to change this and not being able to do so.
No one ever came to me or to the many people that I know who attended GYM, Journey into Manhood, people who till this day consider it one of the greatest, most meaningful experiences of their lives.
I'm going to include a link to an article posted on Alternet by Ted Cox, who went undercover to one of these Journey into Manhood camps. So people can judge for themselves the actions being taken by the directors of these programs. For example, there's something which the camp members undergo called touch therapy. And this article specifically mentions something called the Cohen Hold. This is referring to ex-gay therapist Richard Cohen. And I'm going to include a clip here of an interview with Cohen from CNN where he demonstrates one of these holding techniques to see how appropriate this kind of thing would be for people who are struggling with homosexual feelings.
Cohen explains Rob's same-sex attraction as typical of the men he treats. Cold, distant dad, overbearing mom, and overly sensitive kid. He showed us some of his unconventional techniques like touch therapy, in which he encourages Rob to seek out same-sex mentors to basically recreate a healthy father-son bond.
It's non-sexual. It establishes like parent-child relationship. So he didn't experience this growing up with his dad.
Rob, do you feel a sexual connection right now?
No, I don't. I feel very safe and very comforted, and it just feels wonderful.
Here's a quote from Mr. Cox's article regarding the purpose of the touch therapy. The idea behind Healing Touch is to recreate the father-son bond that apparently we missed as children. In this twisted neo-Freudian theory on the cause of homosexuality, men who didn't get appropriate touch from their fathers sexualized their need for a healthy, non-sexual masculine connection. Healing touch techniques recreate a loving father-son bond and are completely non-sexual. Well, that's what they tell us. It seems clear to me that efforts like this are attempting to create some kind of myth of a childhood trauma being the cause for the development of these feelings. It's creating a boogeyman that, once destroyed, is somehow going to allow you to move on. You know, treating this as some kind of psychological baggage which can simply be cast away. I think that is fairly preposterous. I'm also going to include from the interview with Cohen him exhibiting some other activity practiced at this camp. It's essentially beating abusive parents to death in effigy. Again, in an attempt to create some childhood conflict myth that, when overcome, is going to allow you to leave the homosexual lifestyle behind and embrace your inner masculinity, which has been missing for your entire life.
Another technique, bioenergetics, designed to help clients release memories stored in the muscles, in this case by hitting a pillow with a tennis racket.
I was angry at my mother. Okay. So I started saying, Mom! 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 Why did you do that to me?
Those psychologists who do submit to the APA will only continue to disrespect and discriminate against me and other people like me, by refusing to offer us any therapy as to how we can live our lives the way we want to live them, requiring us to either engage in anal sex with men or else go without professional therapy altogether.
This is a false dilemma, for there is the other option to acknowledge one's sexual orientation, but choose to remain celibate and not attempt to change feelings for which there's no guarantee that they can be changed, regardless of the amount of desire or effort put into doing so.
By the way, Journey into Manhood does not teach that it's their way or the highway. They and many organizations like them make it abundantly clear to their participants that for people who are happy being gay or who do not want to change their sexuality, that there are gay affirmative therapies available. They also make it clear that each participant in the program must be there as a result of his own personal choice and not because he was pressured or coerced. Indeed, if an individual really doesn't want to change, or isn't sure if he wants to change his sexuality, or only wants to change it because of some sort of pressure, then such a program could very likely make him feel sad and depressed. But these programs are clear that they are not intended for such people. If such persons as these attend these programs, any depression or duress that results is his own liability, not the program's liability.
I think this is precisely the type of person who's going to be attracted to such a program in the first place. And it's the beliefs of such a person these programs take advantage of. They have people who believe that in order to be acceptable in the eyes of God, for example, it's necessary for them to change their sexuality. And if they find themselves unable to do so, they believe that they are unacceptable in the eyes of God and possibly even unfit to live. This is precisely how Vincent Cervantes felt, for example, after he failed to change his sexual orientation through ex-gay therapy.
So you want to deny the scientific reality that these programs work? You want to ignore my own first-hand knowledge as to how my sexual feelings have changed long-term? Fine.
I have to accept your honesty when it comes to your own feelings. However, until a study can be produced which shows marked differences in arousal patterns after having undergone ex-gay therapy, it cannot be called scientific evidence.
If the APA really cared about people like me, then instead of biasly bashing the sole organizations that offer hope to people as myself, the APA would at least research into less dangerous ways, according to their opinion, of how individuals such as myself can live their lives the way that they want, with a wife and children.
I think this is the crux of the matter here. I think that people who speak against ex-gay organizations are not necessarily bashing them per se, but rather are attempting to point out that the hope offered by these organizations may in fact be a false hope, and that it will not be possible for the participants in these programs to change their sexual orientation regardless of the actions taken to do so. You mentioned a desire for wife and children. The fact of the matter is, for a lot of gay men out there, that's simply not going to be a possibility, regardless of how much they want it. You had mentioned previously in the video that you had experienced a change in your feelings of attraction. But I do ask you to keep in mind, regarding the pursuit of a wife, that if you find, and this is only something that you can determine, whether it would be necessary to think about men in order to become intimate with your prospective wife, as Peterson Toscano did, by the way, I would implore you to reconsider, and this may necessitate the need to be a little more practical regarding the application of your faith and religious position regarding these feelings. Peace, and I wish you well.